We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Israel approves minimal fuel entry increase for Gaza as it slams the UN chief for invoking rare Article 99 of UN Charter. Ukraine and Israel aid bill blocked in the US Senate as Republicans demand tougher border control measures. Las Vegas campus shooting leaves 3 dead, 1 in critical condition. Bloodshed ends with suspect's own death. And in sports, India squares off with Spain in FIH Men's Hockey Junior World Cup 2023. And on to details now. Amidst the escalating tensions in Israel-Hamas conflict, Israel's Netanyahu approved a minimal fuel entry increase for Gaza Strip. Israel's political security cabinet gave the green light to the decision as it was aimed to prevent a humanitarian collapse and the outbreak of disease in the enclave south. In a statement issued by Israeli Prime Minister's office, the amount of fuel would be determined by the cabinet and adjusted based on the local humanitarian situation. The decision to allow fuel into the Gaza Strip is conditional on the Red Cross being granted access to Israeli captives held by Hamas in Gaza. While U.S. Senate blocked a bill that would have provided security assistance for both Ukraine and Israel on Wednesday, the bill was to provide about $50 billion in new security assistance for Ukraine, as well as money for humanitarian and economic aid for the government in Kyiv, plus $14 billion for Israel to combat Hamas in Gaza. As 49 votes were in favor and 51 against, it fell short of the 60 votes needed in the 100-member Senate to pave the way to start debate, threatening President Joe Biden's push to provide new aid before the end of 2023. Republicans also pressed their demands for tougher measures to control immigration at the U.S. border with Mexico. Also, Israeli forces also shared a video on Wednesday where they can be seen retrieving RPG missiles, anti-tank missiles, explosive devices, long-range missiles, grenades and UAVs. The forces claimed that the ammunitions are stored in school and a medical facility in Gaza by Hamas to use for terrorism. Meanwhile, Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen has said UN Chief Antonio Guterres' tenure was a danger to world peace after he invoked a rare procedure with the Security Council over the Gaza war. He said, and I quote, "Guterres' tenure is a danger to world peace. His request to activate Article 99 and the call for a ceasefire in Gaza constitutes support of the Hamas terrorist organization," unquote. And moving on, in a rare move, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Wednesday invoked Article 99 of the UN Charter and formally warned the Security Council of a global threat from the Gaza war. And taking to X, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres wrote, "I've just invoked Article 99 of the UN Charter for the first time in my tenure as Secretary General. Facing a severe risk of collapse of the humanitarian system in Gaza, I urge the Council to help avert a humanitarian catastrophe and appeal for a humanitarian ceasefire to be declared." In his 2-page letter, Guterres told the Council, UN letter, that the Gaza war may aggravate existing threats to international peace and security, he said. He also highlighted that more than 1,200 brutally killed by militants on 7th October, including 33 children and the 130 people still being held captive. They must be immediately and unconditionally released. Accounts of sexual violence during these attacks are appalling, the UN chief added. And moving on, stating that the article has not been used for decades, UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said that the UN chief invoked Article 99 of the founding UN Charter that allows him to bring the matter to the attention of the Security Council.
The Secretary General has today delivered a letter to the President of the Security Council invoking Article 99 of the Charter of the United Nations. This is the first time that Antonio Guterres has done this since he became Secretary General in 2017. Article 99 states, and I quote, that the Secretary General may bring to the attention of the Security Council any matter in his opinion that may threaten the maintenance of international peace and security. In the letter, which has been shared with you, the Secretary General urges the members of the Security Council to press to avert a humanitarian catastrophe, and he appeals for a humanitarian ceasefire to be declared.
And shifting focus to Russia-Ukraine war now, powerful explosion rocked the industrial district of the Russian-controlled Donetsk city, setting an oil depot ablaze on Wednesday. The Russian-backed city authorities haven't commented on the incident. Also, there was no immediate response from Ukraine. Ukrainian troops continue to hold positions on the outskirts of Donetsk, and it regularly comes under artillery fire. Well, U.S. President Joe Biden pleaded with Republicans for a fresh infusion of military aid for Ukraine on Wednesday, warning that a victory for Russia over Ukraine would leave Moscow in position to attack NATO allies.
Well, Republicans in Congress are willing to give Putin the greatest gift he could hope for and abandon our global leadership, not just Ukraine, but beyond that. We've all seen the brutality that Putin has inflicted on Ukraine, invading another country, trying to subjugate his neighbors to his iron rule. If Putin takes Ukraine, he won't stop there. It's important to see the long run here. He's going to keep going. He's made that pretty clear. If Putin attacks a NATO ally, if he keeps going, and then he attacks a NATO ally, well, we've committed as a NATO member that we defend every inch of NATO territory.
Well, U.S. National Security spokesman John Kirby said the U.S. continues to watch the burgeoning defense relationship between Iran and Russia. He added Iran is a threat to the security in the Middle East.
The only thing I'd add is that, we're continuing to watch this burgeoning defense relationship between Iran and Russia. That's worrisome because Iran continues to provide drones to Mr. Putin, who uses those drones to attack energy infrastructure and kill innocent Ukrainians. And what the Iranians are expecting in return is a measure of defense industrial support as well. And an Iran that has more advanced capabilities and availability to get their hands on Russian weapons, that's not an Iran that's healthy for the security environment in the Middle East.
Also, U.S. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson met with Britain's Foreign Minister David Cameron on Capitol Hill on Wednesday. The Republican leader of the U.S. House of Representatives has urged for more information on Ukraine's strategy and immigration policy changes amid a week-long impasse over Kyiv security assistance. Cameron was expected to reaffirm both the strength of Britain's relationship with Washington and London's continued support for Ukraine. Well, in the U.S., a shooting on the main campus of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, on Wednesday left at least 3 people dead before the bloodshed ended with a suspect's own death. The Las Vegas Police Department said that 3 people, aside from the shooter, were killed. Another person who was shot is in critical condition. Authorities have not identified the victims. It also remained unclear whether the suspect was shot dead by police or committed suicide. Official details of the incident remained sketchy. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department sheriff said that there was no longer any threat to the community, but the main UNLV campus and other branches of the university were being closed for the day out of an abundance of caution.
I will tell you that this combined police, state, local, and federal law enforcement, along with the fire department, worked very well. As the chief told you, we do have one suspect down. Of course, we have no idea on the motive. There are a number of victims that have been transported to area hospitals, so I don't want to give you false information and tell you how many victims that we have, but we will be providing that update very, very shortly.
Well, Russian President Putin made significant visits to the UAE and Saudi Arabia, strengthening ties and defying Western isolation. Oil cooperation and the Israel-Hamas conflict were the key topics. DD India's correspondent Dasha Chernishova shares more details from Moscow.
As the Russian president made a rare overseas visit, his first stop was in the United Arab Emirates. Putin said the relations between Russia and the UAE have come to an unprecedentedly high level as he met with the UAE President Mohammed Al Nahyan in Abu Dhabi. Putin said that the UAE has become Russia's largest trading partner in the Arab world. Over the past year, he said trade turnover increased by around 70%. Putin also invited the UAE president to the BRICS summit in Kazan next year. Escorted by his fighter jets, Putin then landed in Saudi Arabia. Opening the talks with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Putin stressed good relations with Saudi Arabia in all spheres, including the economy. The situation in the conflict areas has been on the agenda of the two meetings, the conflicts in the Middle East and in Ukraine. The Kremlin has also said that energy cooperation is on the agenda, as well as broader issues such as ensuring stability in the Gulf. Moscow says these contacts are very important and timely. Dasha Cherneshova reporting in Moscow for DD India.
Well, Putin also discussed further cooperation on oil prices with the Saudi Crown Prince. Putin and the Crown Prince, de facto ruler of the world's largest crude exporter, had the hastily arranged talks hours after the Kremlin leader visited Saudi Arabia's Gulf neighbor, the UAE. Kremlin spokesperson quoted by Russian news agencies said cooperation would continue within OPEC+, which concludes the OPEC and allies led by Russia. Well, Putin's visit comes after OPEC+ agreed last Thursday to voluntary supply cuts totaling about 2.2 million barrels a day, included an extension of existing Saudi and Russian voluntary cuts of 1.3 million BPD. The new announcement was greeted skeptically by the oil market because of doubts as to whether they would be fully implemented. Oil prices fell 2% last week after the OPEC announcement, but Brent crude futures were firmer on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi is set to hold talks with Russian President at the Kremlin following Putin's recent visits to two Gulf countries. Earlier this fall, Russia's top diplomat and military chief visited Iran. The West has accused Iran of supporting Russia's war in Ukraine by supplying drones and other weaponry. Kremlin has denied these allegations. DD India's correspondent Dasha Cherneshova provides more details from Moscow.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is to host Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi in Moscow on Thursday. The talks will focus on trade and economic cooperation, including in the energy sector, according to the Kremlin. During this working visit by the Iranian president, the sides will also exchange views on major international and regional issues. According to the Iranian media, a high-ranking economic and political delegation is to accompany President Raisi during his visit to Moscow. Raisi's visit comes a day after Putin traveled to the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia for talks on energy and regional politics. Putin and Raisi last held a phone conversation in October, raising concerns about the conflict between Israel and Hamas. And the Iranian media also say that humanitarian situation in Gaza will also be on the agenda of Thursday talks in Moscow. Dasha Cherneshova reporting in Moscow for DD India.
And news from around the world now. A massive fire engulfed a multi-story commercial building in Pakistan's largest southern port city of Karachi on Wednesday. Police officials say that at least 3 people were killed and several shops were damaged in the blaze. However, the cause of the fire is undetermined. A formal investigation into the incident is underway. Authorities in Colombia and Brazil have destroyed 19 illegal gold mining sites and equipment in the Amazon rainforest as part of joint efforts with Brazil to crack down on gold mines in the area. The blown-up illegal mining site were responsible for producing about $1.5 million of the precious metal a month and contaminating rivers with around 100,000 grams of mercury per month. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo visited the urban forest site to take a stock of the ongoing work on Wednesday. The European city is planning to plant its first urban forest on a busy roundabout as part of a plan to turn the French capital into a garden city. The city will plant 478 trees near the Gare Montparnasse train station as a flagship project to cut down noise, pollution and tackle global warming. NASA on Wednesday celebrated 25 years of the International Space Station's operations. The first two modules of the ISS, named Zira and Unity, were joined together in 1998. NASA Associate Administrator Bob Cabana and ISS Program Manager Joel Montalbano spoke to the 7 members of the expedition's 70 crew aboard the station to mark the occasion.
100% O2, volt 16.8.
And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Donald Trump barred from speaking publicly about court staff in his civil fraud trial. We tell you the details ahead. And pop star Taylor Swift is Time's 2023 Person of the Year. And UNICEF's Generation Unlimited and India are set to launch Green Rising to drive meaningful environmental actions among the youth. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Dipakshi Kuran, and moving on, the New York Attorney General's office has said that Donald Trump should remain barred from speaking publicly about court staff in a civil fraud trial. The judge overseeing the case, Justice Arthur Engoron, issued the gag order on October 3rd after the former U.S. president shared on social media a photo of the judge's law clerk posing with the U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat, and falsely called her Schumer's girlfriend. Engoron, in November, extended the order barring the party's lawyers from commenting on the clerk's communication with the court. Trump last month appealed, arguing the orders violated his constitutional right to free speech. A judge at the mid-level state appeals court paused the orders on November 16th, but a full panel reinstated them 2 weeks later. Well, the United States on Wednesday formally determined that warring parties in Sudan committed war crimes, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said, as Washington increases pressure on the army and paramilitary rapid support forces to end fighting that has caused a humanitarian crisis. Blinken, in a statement, said Washington also determined that the RSF and allied militias committed crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing. The fighting, which broke out in mid-April, has displaced more than 6.5 million inside and outside Sudan, killing more than 10,000 and decimated the economy. Antony Blinken called on the parties to stop this conflict now, comply with their obligations under international humanitarian and human rights law, and hold accountable those responsible for atrocities. The RSF has been accused of leading an ethnic massacre in West Darfur, and in the capital Khartoum, residents have accused the paramilitary force of looting, rape, and imprisoning civilians. Well, after launching a record-shattering global tour and becoming the world's most streamed musical artist in 2023, Taylor Swift notched yet another accolade on Wednesday when Time magazine named her as the Person of the Year. Swift took the award in a year when her nearly 2 decades of fame and influence came to a peak, the magazine said in announcing the title. She has become the first person from the arts to be honored for her success as an entertainer. And Dr. Kevin Frey, the CEO of UNICEF's Generation Unlimited, is set to launch the latest initiative, Green Rising, in the presence of India's Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change at COP28. Focused on youth engagement, Generation Unlimited's campaign in India, known as Yuvaha, is set to drive meaningful environmental actions at the grassroots level, inspired by the Mission Life movement. Hear more from our correspondent, Vinod Kumar.
We have with us Dr. Kevin Frey, the CEO of Generation Unlimited, a campaign of UNICEF. Day after tomorrow, they are going to do something big with the Environment Minister from India. So, hi Kevin Frey. What brings you here at the COP28 in Dubai?
as you mentioned, we have a very big launch coming up. It's called the Green Rising. It's a global movement to activate tens of millions of young people to take climate action, specifically with the Minister of Environment from India, who will be keynoting the launch on December 8th. We will also launch the Green Rising India Alliance with a goal to mobilize 50 million young people in India to take climate action and to contribute to a more sustainable planet.
So your organization is a big campaign of UNICEF. So UNICEF is an organization which is targeted for children. So how your campaign is distinct? I heard that the focus is on youth. So tell me about your organization.
So we are very focused on youth. Our mission is to skill and connect the world's 1.8 billion young people to opportunities for employment, for entrepreneurship, and for social impact. One of our key focus areas is planet. That means that we're making sure that young people have the skills they need to take social action, but also to take jobs in the green economy, to start new green ventures, and to contribute to sustainability for the planet we live on.
So this is the 7th day. Do you find all these 7 days promising for the youth, and how your organization sees that?
I think there is reason for optimism. I think the vectors and the trajectory are positive, but we have to turn talk and commitments into real dollars that flow and that make it to last mile communities, the communities that are being most hard hit, and it's the young people in those communities that are going to have to live with the impacts of climate change, and we need to invest in them so that they have the skills they need to create the world we want.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Kempri.
Well, India is observing 74th Armed Forces Flag Day on December 7th. The day serves as a tribute to the martyrs and the brave men in uniform who valiantly defend India's borders, preserving the honor of the nation. Flag Day emphasizes India's commitment to caring for its war-disabled soldiers. Veer Naris, the brave women and the families of martyrs who make the ultimate sacrifice for the country. The day has been observed annually since 1949. Also, the Indian government's defense manufacturing arm, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, is all set to showcase its rich legacy in the design, development and production of a diverse range of avionics systems during Avionics Expo 2023 to be held at Ambedkar International Centre, New Delhi on December 7th and 8th. The expo will be inaugurated by the Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan. Moving on, Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra program is going on in the Anantapuram district of the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh. Short films of the schemes implemented by the central government were shown to the public through a campaign vehicle in M. Cheropali village. Similarly, officials of the respective departments explained to the people about the central government schemes. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Cyclone Migjom has weakened into a deep depression over central coast of India's Andhra Pradesh, but it has caused floods in the many parts of the state with damage to life and property. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is also scheduled to visit Chennai today to take a review of the relief work being carried out by various agencies. As part of the Indo-US Joint Exercise Vajra Prahar 2023, the Indian Air Force, along with Indian Army, conducted various exercises with US troops in an Mi-17 helicopter at Umiam Lake, Shillong. Helicasting operations were also carried out, displaying high standards of precision, synergy and professionalism. The Government of India and Asian Development Bank have signed a $175 million loan agreement to improve connectivity and resilience of roads in the state of Madhya Pradesh. These roads will incorporate climate and disaster resilient design and innovative road safety elements. The West Indian state of Gujarat's Garba dance form achieves a momentous milestone by securing a position on UNESCO's representative list of intangible cultural heritage. Becoming India's 15th element to receive such distinguished acknowledgement, Garba presents India's abundant cultural, traditional and heritage treasures to the global stage. And Alphabet on Wednesday introduced its most advanced artificial intelligence model, a technology capable of crunching different forms of information such as video, audio and the text. Called Gemini, that Google's own highly anticipated AI model is capable of more sophisticated reasoning and understanding information with a greater degree of nuance than Google's prior technology. It will be integrated into bhat as well as the latest Pixel 8 Pro smartphones. Underlining Gemini's state-of-the-art performance across many leading benchmarks, Google CEO Sundar Pichai said Gemini 1.0 is optimized for different sizes, Ultra, Pro and Nano. And in sports, India takes on Spain in the second Pool C match of the Junior Men's Hockey World Cup on Thursday. India overcame South Korea in the opening match by 4-2 after vice-captain Arijit Singh Handal scored a hat-trick. But India's coach C.R. Kumar was not satisfied with the performance and said his team needs to be more clinical and avoid conceding unnecessary penalty corners. India conceded 6 penalty corners while earned just 2 against Korea. But India will start as favourites against Spain due to current form of the players. The Spaniards are India's toughest opponent in the pool. That also includes Canada. They won a bronze medal at the 2005 edition. India had clinched a silver medal way back in 1997 in England. India's last pool match is against Canada on Saturday. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Vipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.